back. We are back again. Yay! We're back. Ah! I missed y'all so much. I'm so excited to be back. I missed y'all so much. Hello. Hi. Sorry, I'm still in the process of fixing my hair. I had a horrible hair day today, y'all. It did. She's a mess. I know! I got tan! Thank you for pointing that out, y'all. I finally got tan. I'm so happy. I finally got tan. And the beach killed my hair even more than it already was. Like, my hair is now officially, like, dead. But it did take out the red. So now I have this, like, pretty golden brown going on. And I am actually living for it. I actually really like it. And, yes, I got tan. My freckles came out like crazy. I have freckles. I have the beauty filter on, so you probably can't. Like, you see that? Okay, you see that? Those are freckles. Like, all of this are freckles. It's just like, it's crazy. So happy. But I miss y'all so much. I really did miss y'all. I had to leave. I was forced / I chose to leave Queen of Shadows here because I mentioned to my brother, I was like, oh, maybe I could do a couple lives while we're in Florida. And he's like, no, we're on vacation. You're leaving your books here. I took my standalones and I only ended up having time to read one because we weren't really busy. Like, we were busy, but it was just like, it was a good busy. Like, if we weren't at the beach house, we were spending all day at the beach. Or it was like, we went snorkeling one day and then we're driving around in the golf cart. So, like, I literally didn't even have time to, like, read. I finished one book and that was it. But yeah, I didn't really want to push myself to read when I couldn't. Cause, like, when we were at the beach house, it was like, I was spending time with family and I was, like, doing things with, like, my family, or I was, like, sleeping and, like, catching up on, like, resting. So I wasn't really pushing myself too hard on the books. I only finished one book, which is, it was fine. I finished, what is that book called? The People We Meet on Vacation. People We Meet on Vacation, something like that. It was that book. That's the book I finished. And it was so good. It was really good. It didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out. I thought it was going to be more like friends to lovers to enemies to lovers, and it was more like friends to lovers to strangers to lovers. Like, it was that. And so it didn't go how I thought it was, but it was still really good. I really enjoyed it. Yes, Alex and Poppy are okay. Poppy got on my nerves a lot because it was the miscommunication trope, and I'm just not a fan of that. It had a lot of miscommunication, and a lot of times I wanted to smack both of them and just be like, shut the fuck up, kiss already. But it was really good. I fell in love with Alex. Oh my god. If I could, like, describe my perfect boy, it would be Alex, because he was nerdy, but he was also, like, very fit, and he, like, went to the gym a lot, and it was just like, and he read books, and, like, he was everything. God, he was everything. Jeez, he was everything. It was a nice break. I feel like I really needed a break, especially to start this book. I really needed a break from Throne of Glass because it was getting me down. I needed to read a good wholesome book and know that there is still other books that won't destroy me like this series has been destroying me. Just it was nice. It was nice. Book lovers, I've heard about that book. Book lovers, I've seen it all over book Twitter. I've heard about it and I want to get it, but I also ordered, like, a lot of books for that vacation, and I ended up reading one, so now I have, like, a whole TBR to get through, so we'll see. But yeah, I miss you guys so much. I really did. I missed you guys so much. Thank you. I'm excited and nervous to start this as well, Sarah. more nervous than excited, if I'm being completely honest. I am definitely more nervous than excited to start this book. But there's only one way to do it, and that is to just do it. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna read. We're gonna start Queen of Shadows. And y'all will send me all the positive thoughts that you can, because I'm going to need it. So without further ado, let's get started. So yeah, let's go. As long as we don't start with something super painful in like the first chapter, I think I'll be okay. Like if she comes out this hoe straight out the bat talking about Sam, it's gonna set the mood for the rest of the book, if I'm being honest. So as long as we don't come out the gate swinging, I think I'll be okay for the first couple of chapters. So yeah, Queen of Shadows. Scared. I'm stalling, so I'm gonna read the little note right here. For Alex Bracken, for the 6 years of emails, for the thousands of pages critiqued, for your tiger heart and your Jedi wisdom. Oh, and just for being you. I'm so glad I emailed you that day and so grateful you wrote back. Okay. And then we have a map. Y'all, I'm so scared. Part 1, Lady of Shadows. Hold on, let me drink some water. Okay. Chapter 1. There was a thing waiting in the darkness. It was ancient and cruel and paced in the shadows, leashing his mind. It was not of his world and had been brought here to fill him with its primordial cold. Some invisible barrier still separated them, but the wall crumbled a little more every time the thing stalked along its length, testing its strength. He could not remember his name. Is this Dorian? That was the first thing he'd forgotten when the darkness enveloped him weeks or months or eons ago. Then he'd forgotten the names of the others who had meant so much to him. He could recall horror and despair only because of the solitary moment that kept interrupting the blackness, like the steady beat of a drum. Hold on, sorry, I'm like messing with my AC. A few minutes of screaming and blood and frozen wind. There had been people he loved in that room of red marble and glass. The woman that had lost her head. Lost, as if the beheading were her fault. A lovely woman with delicate hands like golden doves. It was not her fault. Even if he could not remember her name, it was the fault of the man on the glass throne who had ordered that guard sword to sever flesh and bone. See, I'm really glad that I had a gap between Air of Fire and this, because if I had read this immediately after finishing Air of Fire, I would be crying right now. And like, I've come to terms with what happened, so I'm okay for the most part. I'm mainly just hurting for Dorian now. There was nothing in the darkness beyond the moment when that woman's head thudded to the ground. There was nothing but that moment, again and again and again, and that thing pacing nearby, waiting for him to break, to yield, to let it in. A prince. He could not remember if the thing was the prince, or if he himself had once been a prince. Not likely. A prince would not have allowed that woman's head to be cut off. A prince would have stopped the blade. A prince would have saved her. Yet he had not saved her, and he knew there was no one coming to save him. There was still a real world beyond the shadows. He was forced to participate in it by the man who had ordered the slaughter of that lovely woman, and when he did, no one noticed that he had become hardly more than a marionette, struggling to speak, to act past the shackles on his mind. He hated them for not noticing. That was one of the emotions he still knew. I was not supposed to love you. The woman had said that, and then she died. I might actually still cry, so sorry. She should not have loved him, and he should not have dared to love her. He deserved this darkness, and once the invisible boundary shattered and the waiting thing pounced, infiltrating and filling him, he'd have earned it. So he remained bound in night, witnessing the scream and the blood and the impact of flesh on stone. He knew he should struggle, knew he had struggled in those final seconds before the collar of black stone had clamped around his neck. But there was a thing waiting in the darkness, and he could not bring himself to fight it for much longer. Free my boy. Get him out of there. Get him out of there! Chapter 2. Aelin Ash River Galathinius, Heir of Fire. beloved of Mala Lightbringer and rightful queen of Terrasen, leaned against the worn oak bar and listened carefully to the sounds of the pleasure hall, sorting through the cheers and moans and bawdy singing. Though it had chewed up and spat out several owners over the past few years, the subterranean warren of sin, known as the vaults, remained the same, uncomfortably hot, reeking of stale ale and unwashed bodies, and packed to the rafters with lowlifes and career criminals. More than a few young lords and merchants' sons had swaggered down the steps into the vaults and never seen daylight again. Sometimes it was because they flashed their gold and silver in front of the wrong person. Sometimes it was because they were vain or drunk enough to think that they could jump into the fighting pits and walk out alive. Sometimes they mishandled one of the women for hire in the alcoves flanking the cavernous space and learned the hard way about which people the owners of the vaults really valued. Aelin sipped from the mug of ale the sweating barkeep had slid her moments before, watery and cheap, but at least it was cold. Above the tang of filthy bodies, the scent of roasting meat and garlic floated to her. Her stomach grumbled, but she wasn't stupid enough to order food. 1, the meat was usually courtesy of rats in the alley a level above. 2, wealthier patrons usually found it laced with something that left them awakening in the aforementioned alley, purse empty, if they woke up at all. Her clothes were dirty, but fine enough to mark her as a thief's target, so she'd carefully examined her ale, sniffing and then sipping it before deeming it safe. She'd still have to find food at some point, but not until she learned what she needed from the vaults. What the hell had happened in Rifthold in the months she'd been gone? And what client Arabin Hamel wanted to see so badly that he was risking a meeting here, especially when brutal, black uniformed guards were roaming the city like packs of wolves. She'd managed to slip past one such patrol during the chaos of docking, but not before noting the onyx wyvern embroidered on their uniforms. Black on black. Perhaps the king of Ardalan had grown tired of pretending he was anything but a menace, and had issued a royal decree to abandon the traditional crimson and gold of his empire. Black for death. Black for his 2 word keys. Black for the Valg demons he was now using to build himself an unstoppable army. A shudder crawled along her spine, and she drained the rest of her ale. As she set down the mug, her auburn hair shifted and... Auburn? What? Oh, my throat hurts, y'all. Her auburn hair shifted and caught the light of the wrought iron chandeliers. She had hurried from the docks to the riverside shadow market, where anyone could find anything they wanted, rare or contraband or commonplace, and purchased a brick of dye. She'd paid the merchant an extra piece of silver to use the small room in the back of the shop to dye her hair, still short enough to brush just below her collarbones. If those guards had been monitoring the docks and had somehow seen her, they would be looking for a golden-haired young woman. Everyone would be looking for a golden-haired young woman. Once word arrived in a few weeks that the king's champion had failed in her task to assassinate Wendelin's royal family and steal its naval defense plans. She sent a warning to the king and queen of Ilwi months ago and knew they'd take the proper precautions. But that still left one person at risk before she could fulfill the first steps of her plan. The same person who might be able to explain the new guards by the docks, and why the city was noticeably quieter, tenser, hushed. I did not know she dyed her hair. Huh. If she were to overhear anything regarding the captain of the guard, and whether he was safe, it would be here. It was only a matter of listening to the right conversation, or sitting with the right card partners. What a fortunate coincidence, then, that she'd spotted Tern, one of Arabin's favorite assassins, buying the latest dose of his preferred poison at the Shadow Market. She'd followed him here in time to spy several more of Arabin's assassins converging on the pleasure hall. They never did that, not unless their master was present. Usually only when Arabin was taking a meeting with someone very, very important or dangerous. After Tern and the others had slipped inside the vault, she'd waited on the street for a few minutes, lingering in the shadows to see whether Arabin arrived, but no such luck. He must have already been within. So she'd come in on the heels of a group of drunken merchants' sons, spotted where Arabin was holding court, and done her best to remain unnoticed and unremarkable while she lurked at the bar and observed. With her hood and dark clothes, she blended in well enough not to garner much attention. She supposed that if anyone was foolish enough to attempt to rob her, it made them fair game to be robbed right back. She was running low on money. She sighed through her nose. If her people could only see her. Aelin of the Wildfire, assassin and pickpocket. Her parents and uncle were probably thrashing in their graves. Still, some things were worth it. Aylin crooked a gloved finger at the bald barkeep, signaling for another ale. "I'd mind how much you drink, girl," sneered a voice beside her. She glanced sidelong at the average-sized man who had slipped up beside her at the bar. She would have known him for his ancient cutlass if she hadn't recognized the disarmingly common face, the ruddy skin, the beady eyes and thick brows, all a bland mask to hide the hungry killer beneath. Aylin braced her forearms on the bar, crossing one ankle over the other. "Hello, Turn," Arabin's second in command, or he had been 2 years ago. A vicious, calculating little prick who had always been more than eager to do Arabin's dirty work. I figured it was only a matter of time before one of Arabin's dogs sniffed me out. Turn leaned against the bar, flashing her a too bright smile. "If memory serves, you were always his favorite bitch." And now I'm talking to my girl like that. She chuckled, facing him fully. They were nearly equal in height, and with his slim build, Turn had been unnervingly good at getting into even the most well-guarded places. The barkeep, spotting Turn, kept well away. Turn inclined his head over his shoulder, gesturing to the shadowy back of the cavernous space. "Last banquet against the wall. He's finishing up with a client." She flicked her gaze in the direction Turn indicated. Both sides of the vaults were lined with alcoves teeming with whores, barely curtained off from the crowds. She skipped over the writhing bodies, over the gaunt-faced, hollow-eyed waiting to earn their keep in this festering shithole, over the people who monitored the proceedings from the nearest tables, guards and voyeurs and fleshmongers. But there, tucked into the wall adjacent to the alcoves, were several wooden booths. Exactly the ones she'd been discreetly monitoring since her arrival, and in the first, farthest from the lights, a gleam of polished leather boots stretched out beneath the table. A second pair of boots, worn and muddy, were braced on the floor across from the first, as if the client were ready to bolt, or if he were truly stupid to fight. He was certainly stupid enough to have let his personal guard stay visible, a beacon alerting anyone who cared to notice that something rather important was happening in that last booth. The client's guard, a slender, hooded young woman armed to the teeth, was leaning against a wooden pillar nearby, her silky, shoulder-length dark hair shining in the light as she carefully monitored the pleasure hall. Too stiff to be a casual patron. No uniform, no house of colors or sigils. Not surprising, given the client's need for secrecy. The client probably thought it was safer to meet here, when these sorts of meetings were usually held at the Assassin's Keep or one of the shadowy inns owned by Arabin himself. He had no idea that Arabin was also a major investor in the vaults, and it would take only a nod from Aylin's former master for the metal doors to lock, and the client and his guard to never walk out again. It still left the question of why Arabin had agreed to meet here, and still left Aylin looking across the hall toward the man who had shattered her life in so many ways. No, we don't have to get into that. Her stomach tightened, but she smiled at Turn. I knew the leash wouldn't stretch far. Aylin pushed off the bar, slipping through the crowd before the assassin could say anything else. She could feel Turn's stare fixed right between her shoulder blades, and knew he was aching to plunge his cutlass there. Without bothering to glance back, she gave him an obscene gesture over her shoulder. His barked string of curses was far better than the bawdy music being played across the room. She noted each face she passed. Yo, I'm scared. I'm fucking scared. I don't want to meet Arabin again. She noted each face she passed, each table of revelers and criminals and workers. The client's personal guard now watched her, a gloved hand slipping to the ordinary sword at her side. Not your concern, but nice try. I'm scared. Oh, God. Yo, my throat hurts so bad. Aylin was half tempted to smirk at the woman. Might have done so, actually, if she wasn't focused on the king of the assassins, on what waited for her in that booth. But she was ready, or as ready as she could ever be. She'd spent long enough planning. Aylin had given herself a day at sea to rest and to miss Rowan. With the blood oath now eternally binding her to the Fey Prince, and him to her, his absence was like a phantom limb. She still felt that way, even when she had so much to do, even though missing her I still don't know how to say that word. Karanam was useless, and he'd no doubt kick her ass for it. The second day they'd been apart, she'd offered the ship's captain a silver coin for a pen and a stack of paper, and after locking herself in her cramped stateroom, she'd begun writing. There were 2 men in this city responsible for destroying her life, and the people she'd loved. She would not leave Rifthold until she'd buried them both. So she'd written page after page of notes and ideas, until she had a list of names and places and targets. She'd memorized every step and calculation, and then she'd burned the pages with the power smoldering in her veins, making sure every last scrap was nothing more than ash floating out the porthole window and across the vast, night-darkened ocean. Though she had braced herself, it had still been a shock weeks later when the ship had passed some unseen marker just off the coast and her magic vanished. All that fire she'd spent so many months carefully mastering, gone, as if it had never existed, not even an ember left flickering in her veins. A new sort of emptiness, different from the whole Rowan's absence left in her. Stranded in her human skin, she curled up on her cot and recalled how to breathe, how to think, how to move her damn body without the immortal grace she'd become so dependent on. She was a useless fool for letting those gifts become a crutch, for being caught unguarded when they were again ripped from her. Rowan definitely would have kicked her ass for that, once he'd recovered himself. It was enough to make her glad she'd asked him to stay behind. So she had breathed in the brine of the wood and reminded herself that she'd been trained to kill with her bare hands long before she'd ever learned to melt bones with her fire. She did not need the extra strength, speed, and agility of her Fae form to bring down her enemies. The man responsible for the initial brutal training, the man who had been savior and tormentor, but never declared himself father or brother or lover, was now steps away, still speaking with his oh-so-important client. Aelin pushed against the tension, threatening to lock up her limbs, and kept her movements feline smooth as she closed the final 20 feet between them. I'm so scared. Y'all, it's not even funny. I'm so scared. Until Arobyn's client rose to his feet, snapping something at the king of the assassins, and stormed toward his guard. Even with the hood, she knew the way he moved. She knew the shape of the chin poking out from the shadows of the cowl, the way his left hand tended to brush against his scabbard. But the sword with the eagle-shaped pommel was not hanging at his side. And there was no black uniform, only brown, nondescript clothes spotted with dirt and blood. She grabbed an empty chair and pulled it up to a table of card players before the client had taken 2 steps. She slid into the seat and focused on her breathing, on listening, even as the 3 people at the table frowned at her. She didn't care. From the corner of her eye, she saw the guard jerk her chin toward her. "Deal me in," Aelin muttered to the man beside her. "Right now. We're in the middle of a game." "Next round, then," she said, relaxing her posture and slumping her shoulders as Chaol Westfall cast his gaze in her direction. Huh? What is this man doing there? What? Chaol was we're on chapter 3 already? What the fuck? When did we even get on chapter 2? Oh fuck. This is going by too fast. Hold on. Chapter 3. Chaol was Arobyn's client, or he wanted something from her former master badly enough to risk meeting here. What the hell had happened while she was away? She watched the cards being slapped down on the ale-damp table, even as the captain's attention fixed on her back. She wished she could see his face, see anything in the gloom underneath that hood. Despite the splattering of blood on his clothes, he moved as though no injuries plagued him. Something that had been coiled tightly in her chest for months slowly loosened. Alive. But where had the blood come from? He must have deemed her non-threatening because he merely motioned to his companion to go, and they both strolled toward the bar. No, toward the stairs beyond. He moved at a steady, casual pace, though. The woman at his side was too tense to pass for unconcerned. Fortunately for them all, no one looked his way as he left, and the captain didn't glance in her direction again. She moved fast enough that he likely hadn't been able to detect that it was her. Good. Good. Even if she would have known him moving or still. Cloaked or bare. There he went. Up the stairs, not even glancing down, though his companion continued watching her. Who the hell was that? There hadn't been any female guards at the palace when she'd left, and she had been fairly certain that the king hadn't observed no woman rule. Seeing Cale changed nothing, not right now. She curled her hand into a fist, keenly aware of the bare finger on her right hand. It hadn't felt naked until now. A card landed before her. 3 silvers to join, the bald, tattooed man beside her said as he dealt the cards, inclining his head toward the tidy pile of coins in the corner. Meeting with Arabin. She'd never thought Cale was stupid, but this? Aelin rose from the chair, cooling the wrath that had started to boil in her veins. I'm dead broke, she said. Enjoy the game. The door atop the stone stairs was already shut, Cale and his companion gone. She gave herself a second to wipe any expression beyond mild amusement off her face. Odds were, Arabin had planned the whole thing to coincide with her arrival. He'd probably sent Tern to the Shadow Market just to catch her eye, to draw her here. Maybe he knew what the captain was up to, whose side the young lord was on now. Maybe he just lured her here to worm his way into her mind, to shake her up a bit. Getting answers from Arabin would come at a price, but it was smarter than running after Cale into the night, though the urge had her muscles locking up. Months and months since she'd seen him, since she'd left Ardalan, broken and hollow. But no more. Aelin swaggered the last few steps to the banquet and paused in front of it, crossing her arms as she beheld Arabin Hamel, the king of the assassins, and her former master, smiling up at her. I'm so sorry if I call this man sexy, because I saw fan art of him. Ever since I saw the fan art of him, I have been like, this man is hot. He's an asshole and he deserves death. But he is hot, y'all. He's hot. And I can't deny a good-looking man when I see one. I can't. No, he's literally what I picture Eris as, y'all. And y'all know how I feel about Eris. So can you see how conflicted I am over this? This is literally the walking embodiment of Eris, and I'm supposed to not find him attractive. But then all I have to think about is that he literally caused Sam's death, and I'm back to burning him at the stake. I want him burned at the stake. I don't even know. I want medieval torture to happen to him, but like over multiple nights. Like I want it to be long and painful and just no breaks. I want him to have no breaks. I'm gonna stop. Morally in abyss of darkness. I can't help it. I really... Anyway, we're not gonna talk about my taste in fictional characters, because literally I either go for like the most wholesome, so like your Sams, your Dorians, or I go for literally the scum of the earth. It's like there's no, I have no happy medium. I have no happy medium. It's either the best or the worst. It's one or the other. Yeah, anyway. I have daddy issues too. We're in this together, y'all. We're in this together. We will get through this. There will be one day where I'm not attracted to these men. One day, but that day is not today. So, anyway, lounging in the shadows of the wooden banquet, a glass of wine before him, Arabin looked exactly as he had the last time she'd seen him. A fine-boned aristo face, silky auburn hair that grazed his shoulders, and a deep blue tunic of exquisite make, unbuttoned with an assumed casualness at the top to reveal the toned chest beneath. No sign at all of a necklace or chain. His long, muscled arm was draped across the back of the bench, and his tanned, scar-flecked fingers drummed a beat in time with the hall music. I mean, she doesn't help me out with describing him like that. Hello, darling, he purred, his silver eyes bright even in the dimness. Oh, y'all, stop. I can't. No weapons, save for a beautiful rapier at his side. Its ornate, twisting guards like a swirling wind bound in gold. The only overt sign of the wealth that rivaled the riches of kings and empresses. Aelin slid onto the bench across from him, too aware of the wood still warm from Kale. Her own daggers pressed against her with every movement. Goldrin was a heavy weight at her side, the massive ruby in its hilt hidden by her dark cloak, the legendary blade utterly useless in such tight quarters. No doubt why he'd picked the booth for this meeting. "You look more or less the same," she said, leaning against the hard bench and tugging back her hood. "Rifthold continues to treat you well." It was true. In his late 30s, Erebin remained handsome, and as calm and collected as he'd been at the Assassin's Keep during the dark blur of days after... There it is. There's the reminder that I needed to immediately want to throw up when I hear his name. During the dark blur of days after Sam had died. We're just going to skip that. There were many, many debts to be paid for what happened back then. Erebin looked... Sorry. God, it's starting already. It's starting already, y'all. Erebin looked her up and down. A slow, deliberate examination. "I think I preferred your natural hair color." "Precautions," she said, crossing her legs and surveying him just as slowly. No indication that he was wearing the amulet of Orinth, the royal heirloom he'd stolen from her when he found her half dead on the banks of the Florine. He'd allowed her to believe the amulet that secretly contained the third and final word key had been lost to the river. For 1,000 years, her ancestors had unwittingly worn the amulet, and it had made their kingdom, her kingdom, a powerhouse, prosperous and safe, the ideal to which all courts in all lands were held. Still, she'd never seen Erebin wear any sort of chain around his neck. He'd probably had it swirled away somewhere at the keep. "I wouldn't want to wind up back in Endivere." Those silver eyes sparkled. It was an effort to keep from reaching for a dagger and throwing it hard. But too much was dependent on him to kill him right away. She'd had a long, long while to think this over. What she wanted to do. How she wanted to do it. Ending it here and now would be a waste, especially when he and Kale were somehow tangled up. Perhaps that was why he'd lured her here. So she would spy Kale with him, and hesitate. "Indeed," Erebin said. "I'd hate to see you back in Endivere too, though I will say that these past 2 years have made you even more striking. Womanhood suits you." He cocked his head, and she knew it was coming before he amended. "Or should I say, queenhood?" It had been a decade since they'd spoken baldly of her heritage, or of the title he had helped her walk away from, had taught her to hate and fear. Sometimes he'd mentioned it in the veiled terms, usually as a threat to keep her bound to him, but he had never once said her true name. Not even when he'd found her on that icy riverbank and carried her into his house of killers. "What makes you think I have any interest in that?" she said casually. Erebin shrugged his broad shoulder. One can't put much faith in gossip, but word arrived about a month ago from Wendlin. It claimed that a certain lost queen put on a rather spectacular show for an invading legion from Ardalan. Actually, I believe the title our esteemed friends in the Empire now like to use it as fire-breathing bitch queen. Honestly, she almost found it funny, flattering even. She'd known word would spread about what she had done to General Narak and the 3 other Valg princes squatting like toads inside human bodies. She just hadn't realized everyone would learn of it so quickly. People will believe anything they hear these days. "True," Erebin said. At the other end of the vaults, a frenzied crowd roared at the fighters slugging it out in the pits. The king of the assassins looked toward it, smiling faintly. It had been almost 2 years since she'd stood in that crowd. Oh my god. Fucking son of a fucking bitch! I hate this! And this is gonna be for the whole book. Okay. It had been almost 2 years since she'd stood in that crowd, watching Sam take on vastly inferior fighters, hustling to raise enough money to get them out of Rifthold and away from Erebin. Gosh. Please do not hold it against me when I have to stop and cry every time Sam is mentioned. I promise I'm not trying to do it on purpose, y'all. It genuinely just still fucking hurts. I'm just... Okay. Yeah. A few days later, she'd wound up in a prison wagon bound for Endivere. But Sam... She'd never discovered where they'd buried Sam after Roar Farron, second in command to Ian. Ian Jane, the crime lord of Rifthold, had tortured and killed Sam. I know what happened, Misty. We don't have to go over it. She'd killed Jane herself with a dagger hurled into his meaty face. And Farron, she'd later learned that Farron had been murdered by Arobyn's own bodyguard, Wesley, as retribution for what he'd done to what had been done to Sam. But that wasn't her concern, even if Arobyn had killed Wesley to mend the bond between the Assassin's Guild and the new crime lord. Another debt. I still can't believe Wesley did that shit. I still can't believe Wesley did that shit. That's fucking insane to me that he did that. She could wait. She could be patient. She merely said, "So you're doing business here now. What happened to the keep?" "Some clients," Arobyn drawled, "prefer public meetings. The keep can make people edgy. Your client must be new to the game if he didn't insist on a private room. He didn't trust me that much either. He thought the main floor would be safer. He must not know the vaults then." No, Gail had never been here, as far as she knew. She'd actually avoided telling him about the time she'd spent in this festering place, like she'd avoided telling him a good many things. "Why don't you just ask me about him?" She kept her face neutral, disinterested. "I don't particularly care about your clients. Tell me, or don't." Arobyn shrugged again, a beautiful, casual gesture. A game, then. A bit of information to hold against her, to keep from her until it was useful. It didn't matter if it was valuable information or not. It was the withholding, the power of it that he loved. Arobyn sighed. "There's so much I want to ask you. To know. I'm surprised you're admitting that you don't already know everything." He rested his head against the back of the booth, his red hair gleaming like fresh blood. As an investor in the vaults, she supposed he didn't need to bother hiding his face here. No one, not even the king of Ardalan, would be stupid enough to go after him. "Things have been wretched since you left," Arobyn said quietly. Left. As if she'd willingly gone to Endivir. As if he hadn't been responsible for it. As if she had just been away on holiday. But she knew him too well. He was still feeling her out, despite having lured her here. Perfect. He glanced at the thick scar across her palm, proof of the vow she'd made to Nehemiah to free Ilwi. Arobyn clicked his tongue. "It hurts my heart to see so many new scars on you." "I rather like them." It was the truth. Arobyn shifted in his seat, a deliberate movement, as all his movements were, and the light fell on a wicked scar stretching from his ear to his collarbone. "I rather like that scar too," she said with a midnight smile. That explained why he'd left the tunic unbuttoned then. Arobyn waved a hand with fluid grace. "Courtesy of Wesley." You see, now I'm gonna start crying for Wesley. I'm gonna start crying for Wesley! Oh my God. A casual reminder of what he was capable of doing, what he could endure. Wesley had been one of the finest warriors she'd ever encountered. If he hadn't survived the fight with Arobyn, few existed who would. "First Sam," she said, "then me, then Wesley. What a tyrant you've become. Is there anyone at all left in the keep besides darling Tern, or have you put down every person who displeased you?" She glanced at Tern, loitering at the bar, and then at the other two assassins seated at separate tables halfway across the room, trying to pretend they weren't monitoring every movement she made. "At least Harding and Mullen are alive too, but they've always been so good at kissing your ass that I have a hard time imagining you ever bringing yourself to kill them." A low laugh. And here I was, thinking my men were doing a good job of keeping hidden in the crowd. He sipped from his wine. "Perhaps you'll come home and teach them a few things." Home. Another test. Another game. "You know I'm always happy to teach your sycophants a lesson, but I have other lodgings prepared while I'm here." "And how long will your visit be exactly?" "As long as necessary. To destroy him and get what she needed." "Well, I'm glad to hear it," he said, drinking again. No doubt from a bottle brought in just for him, as there was no way in the dark god's burning realm that Arobyn would drink the watered-down rat's blood they served at the bar. "You'll have to be here for a few weeks at least, given what happened." Ice coated her veins. She gave Arobyn a lazy grin, even as she began praying to Mala, to Deanna, the sister goddesses who had watched over her for so many years. "You do know what happened, don't you?" he said, swirling the wine in his glass. Bastard. Bastard for making her confirm that she didn't know. Does it explain why the Royal Guard has such spectacular new uniforms? Not Kale or Dorian. Not Kale or Dorian. Not Kale or... Oh no. Those men are merely a delightful new addition to our city. My acolytes have much fun tormenting them. He drained his glass, though I'd bet good money that the king's new guard was present the day it happened. She kept her hands from shaking, despite the panic devouring every last shred of common sense. No one knows what exactly went on that day in the glass castle, Arobin began. After all that she had endured, after what she had overcome in Wendelin, to return to this, she wished Rowan were beside her, wished she could smell his pine and snow scent and know that no matter what news Arobin bore, no matter how it shattered her, the Fey warrior would be there to help put the pieces back together. But Rowan was across an ocean, and she prayed he'd never get within 100 miles of Arobin. Why don't you get to the point, she said. I wanna have a few hours of sleep tonight. Not a lie. With every breath, exhaustion wrapped tighter around her bones. I would have thought, Arobin said, given how close you two were and your abilities, that you'd somehow be able to sense it, or at least hear of it, considering what he was accused of. The prick was enjoying every second of this. If Dorian was dead or hurt, your cousin, Adian, has been imprisoned for treason, for conspiring with the rebels here in Rifthold to depose the king and put you back on the throne. The world stopped. Stopped, and started, then stopped again. But, Arobin went on, it seems you had no idea about that little plot of his, which makes me wonder whether the king was merely looking for an excuse to lure a certain fire-breathing bitch queen back to these shores. Adian is to be executed in 3 days at the prince's birthday party as the main entertainment. Practically screams trap, doesn't it? I'd be a little more subtle if I'd planned it, but you can't blame the king for sending a loud message. Adian. She mastered the swarm of thoughts that clouded her mind, batted it aside, and focused on the assassin in front of her. He wouldn't tell her about Adian without a damn good reason. Why warn me at all? She said. Adian was captured by the king. Adian was destined for the gallows, as a trap for her. Every plan she had was ruined. No, she could still see those plans through to the end, still do what she had to do, but Adian had to come first. Even if he later hated her, even if he spat in her face and called her a traitor and a whore and a lying murderer. But he would never... Even if he resented what she had done and become, she would save him. Consider this tip a favor, Arobin said, rising from the bench, a token of good faith. She'd bet there was more, perhaps tied to a certain captain whose warmth lingered in the wooden bench beneath her. She stood as well, sliding out of the booth. She knew that more spies at Arobin's lackeys monitored them. Monitored them, had seen her arrive, wait at the bar, and then head to this banquet. She wondered if her old master knew too. Arobin only smiled at her, taller by a head, and when he reached out, she allowed him to brush his knuckles down her cheek. The calluses on his fingers said enough about how often he still practiced. I don't expect you to trust me. I don't expect you to love me. There he goes, back to being a fucking creep. Only once, during those days of hell and heartbreak, had Arobin ever said that he loved her in any capacity. She had been about to leave with Sam, and he had come to her warehouse apartment, begging her to stay, claiming that he was angry with her for leaving, and that everything he'd done, every twisted scheme, had been enacted out of spite of her, for her moving out of the keep. She'd never known in what way he'd meant those 3 words, I love you, but she'd been inclined to consider them another lie in the days that followed, after Rorik Farron had drugged her and put his filthy hands all over her, after she'd rotted away in that dungeon. Arobin's eyes softened. I missed you. She stepped out of his reach. Funny, I was in Rifthold this fall and winter, and you never tried to see me. How could I dare? I thought you'd kill me on sight. But then I got word this evening that you had returned at last, and I hoped you might have changed your mind. You'll forgive me if my methods of getting you here were roundabout. Another move and counter-move, to admit to how, but not the real why. she said. I have better things to do than care about whether you live or die. Indeed. But you would care a great deal if your beloved Adian died. Her heartbeat thundered through her, and she braced herself. Arobin continued. My resources are yours. Adian is in the royal dungeon, guarded day and night. Any help you need, any support, you know where to find me. At what cost? Arobin looked her over once more, and something low in her abdomen twisted at the gaze that was anything but that of a brother or father. A favor. Just one favor. Warning bells pealed in her head. She'd be better off making a bargain with one of the Valg princes. There are creatures lurking in my city, he said. Creatures who wear the bodies of men like clothing. I want to know what they are. Too many threads were now poised to tangle. She said carefully, What do you mean? The King's New Guard has a few of them among its commanders. They're rounding up people suspected of being sympathetic to magic, or those who once possessed it. Executions every day at sunrise and sunset. These things seem to thrive on them. I'm surprised you didn't notice them lurking about the dogs. They're all monsters to me. But Kale hadn't looked or felt like them. A small mercy. He waited. So did she. She let herself break first. This is my favor, then. Telling you what I know. There was little use in denying she was aware of the truth, or asking how he'd become aware that she knew it. Part of it. She snorted. 2 favors for the price of 1. How typical. 2 sides of the same coin. She stared flatly at him and then said, Through years of stealing, knowledge, and some strange archaic power, the king has been able to stifle magic, while also summoning ancient demons to infiltrate human bodies for his growing army. He uses rings or collars of black stone to allow the demons to invade their hosts, and he's been targeting former magic wielders, as their gifts make it easier for the demons to latch on. Truth, 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 but not the whole truth. Not about the word marks or the word keys. Never to Arobin. When I was in the castle, I encountered some of the men he'd corrupted, men who fed off that power and became stronger. And when I was in Wendelin, I faced one of his generals, who had been seized by a demon prince of unimaginable power. Narak, Arobin mused. If he was horrified, if he was shocked, his face revealed none of it. She nodded. They devour life. A prince like that can suck the soul right out of you, feed on you. She swallowed. A real fear coated her tongue. Do the men you've seen, these commanders, have collars or rings? Kale's hands had been bare. Just rings, Arobin said. Is there a difference? I think only a collar can hold a prince. The rings are for lesser demons. How do you kill them? Fire, she said. I killed the princes with fire. Ah, not the usual sort, I take it. She nodded. And if they wear a ring? I've seen one of them killed with a sword through the heart. Kale had killed Cain that easily. A small relief, but beheading might work for the ones with collars. And the people who used to own these bodies, they're gone? Narak's pleading, relieved face flashed before her. It would seem so. I want you to capture one and bring it to the keep. She started. Absolutely not. And why? Perhaps it will be able to tell me something useful. Go capture it yourself, she snapped. Find me another favor to fulfill. You're the only one who has faced these things and lived. There was nothing merciful in his gaze. Capture one for me at your earliest convenience, and I'll assist you with your cousin. To face one of the Valg, even a lesser Valg. Adian comes first, she said. We rescue Adian, and then I'll risk my neck getting one of the demons for you. God's help them all if Arobin ever realized that he might control that demon with the amulet he'd had hidden away. Of course, he said. She knew it was foolish, but she couldn't help the next question. To what end? This is my city, he purred, and I don't particularly care for the direction in which it's headed. It's bad for my investments, and I'm sick of hearing the crows feasting day and night. Well, at least they agreed on something. A businessman through and through, aren't you? Arobin continued to pin her with that lover's gaze. Nothing was without a price. He brushed a kiss against her cheekbone, his lips soft and warm. Why can't he have fucking chapped lips? God damn it. She fought the shudder that trembled through her and made herself lean into him as he brought his mouth against her ear and whispered, Tell me what I must do to atone. Tell me to crawl over hot coal. Oh, God. God damn it! Oh, my sick in the head. I'm sick in the head. Oh god, I'm sick in the fucking head. Oh my god. Okay. Sam had no, okay, yep. Thank you, Nico. Tell me to crawl over hot coals, to sleep on a bed of nails, to carve up my flesh. Say the word and it's done. But let me care for you as I once did. Before that madness poisoned my heart. Punish me, torture me, wreck me, but let me help you. Do this small thing for me, and let me lay the world at your feet. Her throat went dry, and she pulled back far enough to look into that handsome face. Aristocratic, sorry. Y'all, I can't read. Hold on. My mind is like bouncing all over the fucking place. The eyes shining with a grief and a predatory intent she could almost taste. If Arabin knew about her history with Kale and had summoned the captain here, had it been for information, to test her, or some grotesque way to assure himself of his dominance? There's nothing. No. Not yet, he said, stepping away. Don't say it yet. Sleep on it. Though, before you do, perhaps pay a visit to the southeastern section of the tunnels tonight. You might find the person you're looking for. She kept her face still, bored even, as she tucked away the information. Arabin moved toward the crowded room, where his 3 assassins were alert and ready, and then looked back at her. If you're allowed to change so greatly in 2 years, may I not be permitted to have changed as well? Oh my god. With that, he sauntered off between the tables. Turn, Harding, and Mullen fell into step behind him, and Turn glanced in her direction just once to give her the exact same obscene gesture she'd given him earlier. But Aelin stared only at the king of the assassins. At his elegant, powerful steps, at the warrior's body disguised in nobleman's clothes. Liar. Trained, cunning liar. This is how you know I have issues, because this is how you know I'm gullible, because I ate that shit up. I'm over here like, redemption arc. Redemption arc. God damn it. There were too many eyes in the vaults for her to scrub at her cheek, where the phantom imprint of Arabin's lips still whispered, or at her ear, where his warm breath lingered. Bastard. She glanced at the fighting pits across the hall, at the prostitutes clawing out a living, at the men who ran this place, who had profited for too long from so much blood and sorrow and pain. She could almost see Sam there. I needed that. I needed this. Yeah, I needed that. You're right, bestie. Sam is not here anymore because of that fucking bitch of a man. I needed this. Thank you. Almost picture him fighting, young and strong and glorious. She tugged on her gloves. There were many, many debts to be paid before she left Rifthold and took back her throne. Starting now. Fortunate that she was in a killing sort of mood. It was only a matter of time before either Arabin showed his hand, or the King of Ardalan's men found the trail she'd carefully laid from the dock. Someone would be coming for her, within moments, actually, if the shouts followed by utter silence behind the metal door atop the stairs were any indication. At least that much of her plan remained on course. She'd deal with Kale later. With a gloved hand, she plucked up one of the coppers Arabin had left on the table. She stuck out her tongue at the brutish, unforgiving profile of the king, stamped on one side, then at the roaring wyvern gracing the other. Heads. Arabin had betrayed her again. Tails, the king's men. The iron door at the top of the stairs groaned open, cool night air pouring in. With a half-smile, she flipped the coin with her thumb. The coin was still rotating when 4 men in black uniforms appeared atop the stone stairs, an assortment of vicious weapons strapped to their bodies. By the time the copper thudded on the table, the wyvern glinting in the dim light, Aelin was ready for bloodshed. Chapter 4. God damn it. I'm very much conflicted inside my body right now. Adi and Ash River knew he was going to die, and soon. He's not. He didn't bother trying to bargain with the gods. They'd never answered his pleas anyway. In the years he'd been a warrior and a general, he'd also known that he would die some way or another, preferably on a battlefield, in a way that would be worthy of a song or a tale around a fire. This would not be that sort of death. He would either be executed at whatever grand event the king had planned to make the most of his demise, or he would die down here, in this rotting, damp cell from the infection that was slowly and surely destroying his body. It had started off as a small wound in his side, courtesy of the fight he'd put up 3 weeks ago when the butchering monster had murdered Sorsja. He'd hidden the slice along his ribs from the guards who looked him over, hoping that he'd either bleed out or that it'd fester and kill him before the king could use him against Aelin. Aelin. His execution was to be a trap for her, a way to lure her into risking an attempt to save him. He'd die before he would allow it. He just hadn't expected it to hurt so damn much. He concealed the fever from the sneering guards who fed and watered him twice a day, pretending to slowly fall into sullen silence, feigning that the prowling, cursing animal had broken. The cowards wouldn't get close enough for him to reach, and they hadn't noticed that he'd given up trying to snap the chains that allowed him to stand and walk a few paces, but not much else. They hadn't noticed that he was no longer standing very much at all, except to see to his body's needs. The degradation of that was nothing new. At least he hadn't been forced into one of those collars, though he'd seen one beside the king's throne that night. Everything went to shit. He would bet good money that the Wordstone collar was for the king's own son, and he prayed that the prince had died before he'd allowed his father to leash him like a dog. Adian shifted on his pallet of moldy hay and bit back his bark of agony at the pain exploding along his ribs. Worse by the day. His diluted fey blood was the only thing that had kept him alive this long, trying desperately to heal him. But soon, even the immortal grace of his veins would bow to the infection. It would be such a relief, such a blessed relief to know he couldn't be used against her, and that he would soon see those he had secretly harbored in his shredded heart all these years. So he bore down on every spike of fever, every roiling fit of nausea and pain. Soon death would come to greet him. Adian just hoped death arrived before Aelin did. It's gonna be a long fucking book. That's all I'm gonna say right now. It's gonna be a long fucking book. And Arabic needs to stop, because if you keep going, it's through 7. Okay, I'm stopping. My throat is killing. I don't know if y'all can hear me, but my throat is killing me. I think I'm getting sick, and I'm really hoping that I don't have COVID. Remember, I was exposed. I started having symptoms on Friday, which is exactly 2 weeks after I was exposed. Today is my 2nd day, so I'm taking a COVID test today. So enjoy it now, because after this is over, it's kind of done, and then you crave more. This is the last Sam, hoorah. Are you for real? She doesn't mention Sam at all after this? Which I guess is okay, because I don't need to be crying every time she brings him up anymore. That makes me sad, though. The silence is too loud, sorry. There was a mention. Oh. Aww. That's okay. That's okay. You will need that sweater in the car for the rest of this book. God damn. I really hope. If I have COVID, I'm going to be so pissed. I'm gonna be so freaking pissed. Oh. Well, I think that's a good thing because I need a bookmark. She's able to get her closure. I'm gonna use a fucking bank statement, a bank card as my bookmark. She needs that closure, and I feel like her not bringing up Sam anymore or like as often is understandable. And so it's just, you know, yeah, it's full circle. I feel like after this, if she's done, then it's fine. As long as we get closure for my closure for Sam, honestly, it's never going to be enough. I'm always going to want more. But I would like to know what happened to his body. I want to know if it was buried or if it was just like dumped. But I want her to be able to like set up some sort of like grave for him or something to like remember him and to honor him so that he's not like buried in some unmarked grave. But I would like a grave for him. I would like to know what happened to his body. I would like to know, I don't even know. Nothing is ever going to be enough for me for his death, because the way he died was just horrible, and I'm never going to get over it, and it's always going to be just like this thing that I hate and love about the Assassin's Blade. So it's just going to be one of those things that I'm just going to have to get over myself. If I find out that Arabin fucking like did some shady shit with his body, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. Not fucking pissed. I'm gonna cry. That's another thing. Like, I want Arabin to die. I do. I want him to die, because I feel like any punishment that he gets is never gonna be enough unless it's death. Death to that man. No matter how sexy he is, no matter how fine and how disturbingly attracted I am to him at points, I'm still well enough up here to know that he needs to die. He deserves the worst death. But see, okay, y'all, please don't hate me, because I'm a sucker. I'm like the poster child for second chances. I love a good redemption arc. Like a really, really good redemption arc. So like, I would be okay if Arabin like died for Aelin. I would be okay with that. And I could honestly see it happening in some twisted way. I'm not saying that Arabin deserves a second chance or that he deserves a redemption arc, but like, if he died for Aelin, I wouldn't be mad about it, as long as he did die. Yes, I know he's the reason behind Sam's death. I don't want him to have a redemption arc and to be this suddenly good person. There's no way that over the course of 2 years he could change that much to the point where we're just like, we'll let it slide and he'll be okay, right? But if he did die defending Aelin, I wouldn't be mad about it. This is worse than you calling Aelin and Rowan siblings. I know, y'all, and I hope you know. Like, I hope y'all know. Yes, he's a manipulative narcissist, and it's not okay. He's not a good person. Y'all, please don't take this as like me thirsting for him, like me finding him attractive at some point. That's my personal issues with up here and with the things that I've been through in my life, right? That's not me actually like saying like I would fuck Arabin and give him a chance, like, and that I want him to be like this good character. I know he's not. It's just, yeah. Almond oil? I don't know why. Wait, why are you asking me about almond oil, Nico? Why are you asking me about about almond oil? I'm confused. Is that like an out of context spoiler? Ma'am, do you have a thing for redheads? I do. I do. Apparently. Apparently. Almond oil. Do they? I didn't even think that they had things like almond oil in this. What? Why are you asking me about almond oil? Don't make me look it up. I'll look it up. And I'll spoil it for myself. I won't, but I might. I won't look it up, y'all. Don't be a menace to yourself. Do y'all know me? Do y'all know me? I literally, yeah. But it's a good payoff. Okay. Well, I'm going to film a TikTok now calling Airbin hot, and I'm going to enjoy reading all the comments of people cussing me out. I love drama. I love creating drama. That's one of the reasons why I post like such, not like out of pocket, but like the stuff about Aylin and Rowan being siblings. Some people get genuinely mad at that. And I'm like, y'all, it's a book. These people are not real. I promise Aylin and Rowan are still gonna be fucking at the end of the day, whether I call them brother and sister or not. Like, it's fine. Be prepared for the Sam girlies to come for you. I am a Sam girly. How dare you take that title away from me? And say you'd be happy if he died for Aylin. Look. All I'm saying is if he's gonna die, it either has to be in this horrible, grotesque, painful way, or he has to die for Aylin. Those are the only two ways that I'll accept him dying. Yeah, he exists in another universe, in another reality, or in another universe, not this one. I don't know who Jason Clary are. Aww. That makes me, oh no. The payoff in this book is so worth it. We'll see. Well, I fucking hope, because this series is, it's a lot. I can see why she wrote A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like, I can see why she decided to take it easy on us with A Court of Thorns and Roses. And you know what? I really wish that I had read this series before I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, because the way I was going into this series, I was moving like it was going to be A Court of Thorns and Roses part 1, and that A Court of Thorns and Roses was just going to be like, you know, it was just like another series like this one. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm going in here thinking we're going to have, you know, A Court of Thorns and Roses energy. People are going to die, but they're going to come back, or they're going to fake die, and everything's going to be okay in the end. That's what I thought was going to happen. So I really wish that I had read this series first, so that way I could have gone into A Court of Thorns and Roses thinking, oh my god, everybody's going to die. And then it turns out that literally nobody dies. So I went into this series thinking nobody was going to die, and now absolutely fucking every new character that I meet is dying. So god damn. Crescent City, I still haven't brought myself to read it. It's not at the top of my TBR. That's all I'm gonna say. The things that I've seen about it make me not want to read it. It looks, because I'm into murder mysteries, but like everyone else is saying like that it's just like, it's not it. Like the first like big chunk of it is just not it. And I'm like, the next live, if my throat is up for it, is tomorrow. I did get a new kid, so I'm not going to be able to upload lives during my nap time anymore. I'm going to have to upload them during my break, which might not happen because it takes me about an hour to cut down the video, make the thumbnail, and then the uploading is what takes a long time. So I'm gonna have to figure out a new schedule because I got a new kid and he is, oh my god. So he has like a speech delay and he has like many learning disabilities, and so he needs a lot. He's been needing, like, today was his first day and I'm exhausted, like mentally and like emotionally, of just like constantly having to keep him entertained and do this. So I might skip lives some days because I'm putting in that work during the day and I'm like tired coming home. And also I have to do a lot of like, not necessarily yelling, but like raising my voice so that the kids can hear me and like all my kids can hear me. So I also think that's part of why I'm losing my voice. So we'll see. I'm just gonna have to either push through or like take some breaks during the week. But this isn't really like a chore to me. Like, I love doing this, so I'm pretty sure I can still do it every day, but there might be a day where I have to like cancel or not do it because my voice is just not with it. So yeah, I'm gonna schedule it for tomorrow, and then if I have to cancel it, I'll cancel it. I can read Crescent City live. Well, I mean, I guess I've read every SJM series live. Like, her 2 out of the 3 series that she has, I've read them both live. So I might as well read Crescent City live too. But that's gonna have to wait till we're done with Throne of Glass, obviously. Oh god, this series is stressing me out. This series is putting me through the fucking ringer. Anyway, all right. Well, that's it for today. I was thinking about reading Zodiac Academy live because I've seen a lot of people like say that book made them, like that series made them like cry. But I don't know if I want to cry for y'all on live anymore. I feel like all I've done these past few lives is just cry. I mean, I cried at the end of The Assassin's Blade, and I just haven't stopped crying ever since. I feel like I cry every other damn live. Not the whole book. Yeah, because I feel like since it has like a slow start, I wouldn't obviously read like the slow parts live. It would be like from Blood and Ash. I would just be fucking reading, but I wouldn't even be paying attention. So Ruthless Boys are so good. Zodiac Academy is just pain and ugliness. Damn! I don't know if I want to read it anymore, y'all. I don't think I can read it if it's worse than this. If it's worse than this, y'all. We'll see. I'll see. Oh, especially since Crescent City is only 2 books and it's not a completed series. I hate this shit up though. Sarah. You need to do it. Okay, Nico. Okay, I guess I'll read Crescent City next, since I might as well just knock out all the fucking SJM series. Which I was wondering, do y'all want me to read, like, when A Court of Thorns and Roses comes back, do y'all want me to read the new book live? Because I wasn't planning on it, since like we're all gonna be basically like reading it at the same time. So I wasn't thinking y'all wanted me to read them live. I honestly don't know what I'm gonna do when I don't have any more series to read for y'all live. Oh, yes? Oh, if y'all want me to read those live, then yeah, I'll read those live. Azriel's book. No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Because was like, I don't want this ever to end. The day that I don't do lives anymore, it's not gonna be a good day for me. I thought the next book that this bitch was gonna do was supposed to be A Court of Thorns and Roses. I want the Asriel book. I need it. Okay, I am Gwynriel. I did not know that Gwynriel was such a frowned upon ship until I went on book Twitter. When I got on book Twitter, the girls are fighting. They're fighting over this. I thought it was just a little joke. I thought it was just a little haha. No, the girls are fighting over Gwynriel or Elriel, and like a lot of them like Elriel, which I don't need to go into my thoughts about Elaine. I feel like SJM purposely didn't give us a lot of information about her. I still don't think she's that interesting. Knowing that, I'm not particularly interested in seeing how her character plays out. It's just not someone that I'm interested in. That being said, fuck, I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with that. I saw a comment, I read it, and then Elaine just went out of my mind. Yeah, I feel like Elaine's character is boring on purpose because I feel like SJM is gonna, like, you know, but then again, she didn't give us a lot on Nesta, and Nesta was still interesting. Like, she still had bits in there where she put stuff in there about Nesta that I was like, oh, I'd love to read more about her. And then, you know, she gave us whatever the fuck the last book was called. I can't remember right now. But like Elaine, like I have no interest knowing more about her. Yes, literally. Gwyn was literally from the start like such a strong character, and I was like, I want to know more about her. I want to know more about her. Yeah, Silver Flames, that's what it's called. Silver Flames was literally peak for me in that series. It was peak. I loved it. Yeah. Right now, Elaine is just not interesting to me. That's not saying that her character won't be interesting in whatever book that she decides, whatever book SJM decides to write about her. But for me right now, she's not doing what I need to be done for her to be interesting. Gwyn gave me everything I needed for me to want more from her. And she was only present in one book. One book, mind you. Elaine has been present for like 4 books, 3 or 4 books. Gwyn was present in one book and I loved her. So but yeah, that being said, I did not know that this was such a controversial topic until I went on book Twitter, and it was literally like I saw a tweet that was like, it was like a quote tweet. Someone had tweeted something about Gwynriel, about how Gwyn, like, they were like, how do you know, or how can you tell me that Gwyn isn't meant to be Asriel's mate when she literally sang to his shadows? And then someone quoted it and said, show me you don't have reading comprehension without, or tell me you don't have reading comprehension without telling me you don't have reading comprehension. And I was like, God damn. I was like, y'all do realize these people are not real. Doesn't matter who you ship who with. Like, it's supposed to be fun. And I feel like people take it too far. Gwyn and Asriel have more in common. Asriel literally saved her from that horrible encounter that she had. And I was like, I was eating that shit up. Say that the next time Sam's name comes up. Stop. Sam is real in my very heart and soul. Oh, yeah, look. Okay, do you know how in movies, like, your family will give you like a family heirloom? Stop. Sam is real to me. He is very real to me. Anyway, I got a family heirloom yesterday, and I almost started crying. I've always wanted one, but I thought that my family left everything when they like came to the States. I don't know if you can see it. It's La Virgen de Guadalupe. and it's like, it's just a little pendant, and it's so freaking pretty. It belonged to like my great grandmother, and it's from like 1876. Like, this shit is old. And I've always wanted to be gifted a family heirloom, and I was gifted it last night. I was started crying, but I wanted to show y'all. La Virgencita. Yeah, it's La Virgen. And my mom was like, you better not lose it, because I'm like notorious for losing jewelry. She gave me my ring that she gave me for my 15th birthday, because like in Mexican culture 15 is like a big birthday. I lost it the day I got it, and then I found it, and then I had it for a couple months, and then I lost. I did not lose it, it was stolen. I left it in her classroom, and the man that went and cleaned her classroom took it. Like, he stole it. So, and I never saw it again, and I'm still really sad about it. But I don't think I'm very good with rings. I am very good with bracelets. Y'all, I stole this bracelet whenever maybe I shouldn't say stole. I thrifted this bracelet whenever I was in Florida. Loki made me do it. I swear to God, Loki made me do it. Not made me, but like, he heavily influenced me to do it. And I did it. And now I have this cute little bracelet that I have for him, because my Ojo one for him is breaking. Anyway, sorry. I just saw it, and I was like, I need to tell y'all about this, because I haven't seen y'all, and I haven't talked to y'all, and y'all don't know what's going on in my life, and I don't know what's going on in y'all's lives anymore. So I missed y'all. Okay, but I stole it. I thrifted it from a chain like store. Like, they were not gonna miss the $6.99 that this bracelet was probably worth. I stole it from like a big corporation, and they will not miss it. I don't steal from small businesses. This was actually the first time I ever thrifted. I need to stop saying the S word. This was the first time I ever thrifted anything, y'all. I was like sweating, because my brother got one too, and we saw it, and I was like, oh, there's no price tags on them. And then my brother was like joking, and he was like, oh, like we should just wear them out of the store. And I was like, no, like we should. And then I had Loki on my shoulder, and he was like, you should. And I was like, no, it's okay, no. And then next thing I know, I'm fucking putting it on. I paid for some stuff. I bought 2 shirts and 2 bucket hats, so they did get some money out of me. And it was just like a buy 4 get 1 free bracelet combo, if you want to think about it. So it's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I don't thrift from small businesses, y'all. And this was the first time I ever like thrifted anything, and I was like, I was gonna go walk back in the store and give it back, but yeah, I didn't. And now I have this cute little bracelet. So yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, it's okay, it's fine, nobody's gonna miss this bracelet, it's fine. All right. Do I have anything else I want to tell y'all? I don't think so. Do I have anything else to say about this fucking book? No, other than the fact that it's gonna fucking cause me so much pain. Yeah, me and my brother together are like, we're not a mess, but yo, I'm thinking, okay, never mind. This life has been going on long enough. I will save that little tidbit for tomorrow. So I will see y'all tomorrow. I love y'all. I missed y'all. Literally, I missed y'all so much. I missed y'all so much. So much. Y'all just make my day so much better. I feel like y'all are just like my girlfriends, and I just talk to y'all about the books that I'm reading and about anything else that matters in my life. And y'all just listen. So thank you. I love y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow, and we'll get through this painful ass fucking series some more. So yeah. See y'all tomorrow.